I'm going to explain to you a little more, something more complicated. Remember, I was a nurse, and I was also a therapist. But I want to explain to you something if I can. Every brain starts out as a female brain. I'll say that again. In the fetus, in the embryo, in the mother's stomach, when that baby is conceived, that brain is all the same whether it's a male or a female. The brain doesn't change for many weeks. But at some point, the male Y chromosome, the male Y chromosome, testosterone is released and transforms the fetus's brain in about the 9th to the 13th week. And by degrees, the brain is transformed into a male brain by the 16th to the 26th week. Let me try to explain that. There's a difference between a male and a female. There's a chromosome, a male Y chromosome. A boy is born with that chromosome in him. At a certain point in the mother's uterus, that fetus, that chromosome is released. And when it's released, testosterone is released. It transforms the brain of that little infant, little baby, the brain. And what it does, it puts a coating, I don't know, a coating, I call it a coating for your simplicity, between the left and the right half of your brain. You know, we have two halves in our brain. We have a right half and a left half. This is why men and women are different, because that coating is spread and covers and breaks the connection. I think it breaks 25 million connections between the left and the right side of your brain. 25 million connections. A male's brain is changed. I don't want to give you all the big scientific words, but you can look it up on your own if you're interested. But believe me, that a boy's brain is different than a girl's brain. It's radically different. And the connection between the two halves of the brain is broken. It is broken. This is why men can be single-minded, because that coating cut off them from the right side, the other side of their brain. This is why men can be so different than a female. They think differently than you. I hope you know that. We've been married 65 years. We know how different my husband thinks than I think, because our brains are different. I'll try to explain this a little more, because a man can be single-minded. He can shut off the emotion. He cannot put feeling into language, nor experience emotion easily. Now, we women are different. We cannot separate our feelings from our reason. It's too painful for us to make decisions. I think many of you women understand what I'm saying. But it's because of the brain that God gave you. He planned it this way, that a man and a woman need each other, because each of us has something to offer in the marriage. And a woman brings something different into the marriage than a man does. Women often feel confused. You like that? It's too difficult to make a decision, right? Some of you I know very well. I hope you're listening to me. It's too difficult to make a decision. Because on one side of the brain, you have all these feelings, and you have all these emotions. On the other side of the brain, you have your thought processes. But it's the father who calls a masculine force in his brain. But you understand why it's difficult, because the brain was changed in the uterus. A male's brain is different than your brain. So you see this in all kinds of ways as you grow up in school. People are better in math, they're better in certain categories than they are in other categories. So what does it mean to be a masculine? What is a masculine nature and values like? What are the differences between a woman? The masculine principle is one of thought and action. A masculine energy is his nature is to fix things, right? I want to tell my husband I have a problem right away. He wants to fix it. He wants to lead it. He wants to attack. He wants to achieve it right away. And I just want to talk. I just want to talk out my problem. He's laughing at me right now. I just want to talk. But a man's nature is thought and achievements. He wants to lead and to attack and to achieve. He has goal-oriented behavior and action. A man has the ability to know his goal and do what is necessary to get it. That's the positive side of being a male. They're goal-oriented. But on the other hand, males are more vulnerable to gender confusion. I don't know if you'll understand this or not, but men are fragile as to sexual identity because of the high voltage of the hormones that they have, the androgen hormones. I don't know how to explain it to you, but they're more fragile. Their sexual identity is more fragile, it's more delicate, because the sexual identity is in the brain, not in his sexual organs. It's in the brain. The man's sexual identity is in here, not in his male organs. You probably never read this before, maybe never heard it before, but it's true. That's why men have more problems with sexuality. The question I'm asking you now is, what does it mean for you to be a feminine, to be a woman, to have a feminine nature? The feminine principle is that which receives. Remember, the man's principle is one of thought and action. But the feminine principle is that which receives and nourishes and gives birth. And gives birth. Her nature is to be receptive, simply to give and to receive. A woman's specific form of creativity is to be a mother, to have a child. A woman's nature, a feminine nature, is to nurture in silence and to quietly respond with intense interest and love to people. All because our brains are different. Our brains are cut off. A man can only use one side of the brain. We women use both sides and we get confused. We have trouble making decisions. And we also have a problem because we get an influx of so much information from our inner being and from the world around us. We have to figure it out. We make experiences in the outer world, but yet we have inner world. We have a knowing inside of us from our heart. And we have a problem sorting through all those emotions and a flood of emotions. But that's a feminine characteristic. This is what you and I are called to do, girls. But we have a problem because in our culture in recent years, we've had a problem of rejection of the feminine. You know what I mean by that? A flight from the feminine. It's the women's movement. And they don't want to accept that they're a female. They want to act like they're men. They find it difficult to accept that they're a woman. And so because of that, what they've done in our movies and so many things that you see in life is that it's over-evaluated the masculine achievement and what a man can achieve. We overemphasize it. We overvalue it. It's more important than what a woman does. And so then woman negates the values which are associated with being feminine. So they negate that, even of being a mother or being married or even giving up her last name. You notice many women today use their name they grew up with. They won't take the name of their husband because it's a rejection of the feminine. And underneath all of that is envy and resentment, restlessness, and a drive for ambition. And they shy away from tenderness, from gentleness, and they don't want to be dependent on a man. I've heard that recently. They don't want to be dependent on anybody because they want to be a man. But we're a woman. And we must accept the fact that we are a woman. We must accept the fact that we're a man. It's important that we don't rebel who God created you to be. that you accept it and say, yes, Father, I'm a female. I remember growing up, and my brothers all got to go to my father's fish store and work in his market and do the cash register and cut the fish and sell the fish and wait on customers because I was a girl. I could never do that. I remember being very distressed over that because I wanted to do what the boys did. I hadn't yet accepted the fact that I was a female and not a boy. And I was envious of my brothers. I wanted to be able to do what they did down at my dad's fish market. I don't know how to explain it any better to you, but what God has given us a feminine nature, and it's to birth something, to nurture something, to receive something. And this is a tremendous gift God has given us.